Hey Math Kids, today we're going to talk about how to use JS Track to take your videos and track the motion that happens in those videos. We're also going to take data from that motion and then put it into a spreadsheet and model a function that describes that motion. So to start off, take one of your videos that you made with your cell phone, and there's some criteria that I put in the document. So some of that is make sure you have high contrast background. It's better if you throw the object slow. It's better if it's easy to tell where the center of the object is. So in my video you'll see it's just a soccer ball that's being thrown. All those things will make for better. Really important, do not move your camera when you're making your video. And most phones, I think, will give you an MP4 file. If not, make sure you convert it to an MP4 file before trying this tutorial. And always reach out to me if you need help. So let's see. I'm gonna get my video. I'm just gonna call it Math Video 1. Keep all of these the same. Yours might look different than mine, that's okay. Just keep them with whatever the program gives them to you. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to use this arrow down here at the bottom. And we want to go forward until the ball leaves the person's hands. So I'm going to go until the frame right when it's gone. I would say right there. Now, that frame is going to be our first frame. So we're going to move this arrow to the beginning. Right there. So now that's going to start our time at roughly 0. It might be a little bit off from 0. Now, I also want my y-axis to be in line with that. So I'm just going to drag the origin right here and put it in the center of the ball. Now, I want the x-axis, no, not like that. Hold on. I grab the origin, I want the x-axis to line up with the ground. And it looks like it was tilted just a tiny bit. But to know the exact placement, we actually want to we can move this thing to see where it hits the ground. Because I want that to be the ground. So it hits the ground right. We don't actually see it when it's on the ground, but that's pretty close. So I'm going to make it that spot. So the x-axis is the ground. The y-axis, if we go to the first frame that we're interested in, that's the moment that it leaves the hands of the person throwing the ball. Okay. Now if we click on this, the straight line with the 3 dots, that's going to create a new scale. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go a little bit before that first frame to where she's just standing because she is 5 feet tall. Maybe. Okay. I'm going to click at her feet, click at her head. So in your video, it's important that you know how tall something is in the frame. Originally, I wanted to take a meter stick out there and put it in the frame, and then I would have written 1 meter right here, like this. But I forgot to do that, and luckily I know how tall this girl is, and so I'm going to call that 5 feet, because that's her height. Now I kind of messed up my frame, so I got to go until she throws it. Okay. I want this to be in the center of the ball, so I'll move it a little bit over there. And then move this, and that's going to be our beginning frame. Alright. Once again, I'm just going to double check that when it hits the ground, that it is roughly hitting the x-axis. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, that's going to be good enough. Now we want to go back to the beginning, right here, and we're going to click on this jagged line right here, and that's to create a new track. I'm just going to call it ball. You can create multiple tracks if you want to track different things. One thing that might be kind of interesting to track is the shadow of the ball in this particular video. But what you do is you hold the shift button and then you click where the ball is. Then I'm going to click where the ball is, click, and I just continue to hold shift and click over and over and over until the ball hits the ground. Now it's just advancing by itself. After you click, it'll go to the next frame. You want to try to get the center of the ball as much as possible. If you don't quite get the center, it'll still work, but still clicking. This takes a minute. Almost hitting the ground. I'm only going to track it until it hits the ground. It's almost there. Okay, hit the ground. Now you can see some of the dots right there. The cool thing about this is if you actually go back through the video, you can see that tail. Or if you go forward through the video, you can see all those points. Now, it collected all those points right here. It collected the timestamp as well as the distance it had traveled in the X direction and the distance it traveled in the Y direction. And so we see towards the end it's close to 0. That's good because when it hits the ground we want it to be about 0. So we have all this data now. Now we want to export the data. And I'm going to call it math video 1. I suggest calling it whatever you named your JS track session. So we export it, gives us a file like this. Then I'm going to go to my Google Drive and just drag it right in there. Okay, double click on that. Now we have this data and we want to open it with Google Sheets. Now for what we're doing in this class, we only care about the time and the Y values. So I'm going to, still loading. Okay, maybe, hold on. Okay, I'm going to select this entire, here, I'll do it the easier way. I'll select this column. Then I'm going to hold Command or Control, depending on if you're on a Mac or PC. And then click the other column. Now I have just T and Y selected. And from there, I want to create a chart, so it's that little bar graph button. And I click on that. And it creates a chart based on those two pieces of information. And we see that looks pretty good. Now, scatter chart is fine. We want to go down to customize, and then go to series, and then we want to do a trend line, and that line does not represent that data very well. That's because it's the wrong type of model. We're going to change the type to polynomial, and we're going to keep it as a second degree polynomial. If for some reason this was a different number, make sure you change it to that. And then we want to go down to the label right here, and we want to use equation. And this equation we're going to use throughout the class. So, and this spreadsheet you want to save, and you want to hold on to. Now make sure you make one of these for all 3 of your videos that you're required to do, and make sure that you have access to this equation, because we're going to use it over and over and over. We're going to keep referencing it to learn new stuff about projectile motion. So if you need additional help, please come to Math Lab, but until then, calculator.